Do you like femboys? Do you also wish to be one of the few lucky ones to crack a Finland Astolfo build? Then this manhwa is just for you. So with your stockings on, let's begin our recap. Late at night, when everyone is fast asleep, the only sound that fills the peaceful darkness is the faint rhythm of someone's breathing. The owner of this soft breath is a man with a sharp nose and a smooth forehead, his features sculpted and refined like those of an ancient statue. This man is none other than Ralph, the Grand Duke. Speaking of him, he is the Emperor's nephew, a celebrated war hero, and the continent's only true swordmaster. He also serves as the esteemed leader of the Black Dragon Knights, the very order to which the female protagonist belongs. There lies a story behind why such a great man now rests beside her in the middle of the night, using his subordinate as a pillow, of all things. Truly, he has strange tastes. Still, she will explain that later. For now, she can only think of how unbearably heavy he is. With his weight pressing down on her, she realizes she has no choice. She will have to use that method. After spending the entire day cleaning her infuriating superior's office and enduring another round of hellish training, she is finally free enough to make her move. She is determined to desert the Black Dragon Knights once and for all. As she quietly attempts to slip away, fate intervenes. Her hair is pulled back sharply, and she feels the cold tug as her wig comes loose, ending up in Ralph's hand. He's holding it so tightly that there's no hope of retrieving it. Still, she decides to forget it. There is no time to waste now. She will simply leave like this. She silently bids farewell, whispering to herself that they will never see each other again. In her heart, she offers a quiet thanks for everything up until now, before taking her final step toward freedom. But then, the man behind her moves. Ralph stands there, his gaze unreadable in the moonlight, and his presence halts her in her tracks. Though his voice does not echo in the night, his intent is clear. It seems he does not believe this farewell will be their last. Whether they meet again or not, only time will tell. Beyond this fleeting moment lies the legacy of the ancient and noble house of Brabant. The Count and Countess of that house once raised their two daughters like precious gems. The eldest, Grace, was wise and graceful, carrying all the weight and expectation of becoming the heir. The second, Charlotte Sasha, was free-spirited and unmatched in swordsmanship. Yes, this is none other than Sasha herself. Although she and her sister lost their mother early on, their loving father filled both parental roles and raised them with warmth and abundance. Their lives had seemed destined for happiness, unmarred by sorrow or want. Yet everything changed the year she turned 13. Her father's sudden death shattered their peaceful world. Losing both parents so young was devastating. But what shocked her even more than being left alone with her sister was the strange realization that soon followed. She remembered now. This is the world inside a novel. It is not a tale with a happy ending, but one that concludes with the death of her beloved sister, Grace, the radiant heroine known as the Rose of Brabant. This world is the very setting of the romance novel she once loved in her previous life, a short and tragic story that depicted the brief, shining life of her sister. In its pages, the male protagonist, a humble knight named Ethan, and the noble Grace overcame the impossible gap in their statuses and found love in defiance of fate. However, after their father's death, the story took a tragic turn. Grace, the eldest daughter of the family, chose a political marriage with an aging nobleman instead of being with her true love, Ethan, all for the sake of protecting the family name. Ethan, a humble knight of common birth, could only stand by helplessly and watch her make that fateful decision. Afterwards, he volunteered to join a distant subjugation mission, quietly removing himself from her life. Time passed, and the lonely Grace, bound in a loveless marriage, dies receiving the devastating news. He gets overwhelmed by grief. Ethan followed her into the afterlife soon after. And thus, the tale ended. A bad ending, devoid of hope, warmth, or dreams. In that moment of memory, Sasha feels her sister's arms around her, the gentle promise spoken in her ear. Her sister would protect her no matter what. Sasha wonders then, so what if this world is a novel? The warmth of Grace's embrace feels far too real to be fiction. Everything, she realizes, began after their father's passing. Grace has not yet married, and Ethan has not yet departed for his fatal mission. There is still a chance, still a fragile window to rewrite fate. Sasha vows to make certain her sister never ends up trapped in that political marriage, to ensure that Grace receives the love she was denied in the original story. She will change the plot itself and give her sister the happy ending she deserves. Yet it has already been 4 long years since Sasha first resolved to alter the future. And she still hasn't managed to change a single thing. She tried countless times. She attempted to warn her sister about the future, but Grace had only laughed softly, treating Sasha's warnings as nothing more than the whimsical fancies of a younger sibling. She tried to offer financial help, hoping to secure the mines mentioned in the original novel, but they were already owned by another family. Every attempt, every desperate plan, fell apart for one reason or another. Sasha had truly believed it would work this time, yet the results remain the same. The family's fortune has declined, and Ethan, once a familiar face around the estate, has long since stopped visiting. 4 years have passed in futility, and frustration burns in her chest like fire. Then someone calls her name. She turns sharply. It's John, a young man from the renowned Albrecht Marquisate, a lineage celebrated for its swordsmanship. He is her childhood friend, and his father serves as both her godfather and her instructor in the art of the sword. Many of Sasha's earliest lessons were spent in the Albrecht training yard, crossing blades beneath the afternoon sun. When she asks why he is here, John replies that he came to check on her. After all, this is his family's estate. Sasha blinks, confused, before demanding what he means by check on her. John answers with calm gravity. He has heard that Lady Grace and Duke Herman have begun discussing marriage. The words strike Sasha like a thunderclap. She stammers, demanding to know where he heard such a thing. John simply replies that the information came from his father, and that she should know better than anyone how skilled the Albrecht family is at gathering intelligence. Sasha's heart pounds. That means that event, the one she has dreaded all these years, is finally approaching. No matter how desperately she has struggled, the story's path is aligning once again with its tragic course. If it has come to this, then there is only one path left for her to take. She must send that old duke straight to the afterlife before he can claim her sister's hand. But before she can act, John seizes the sword from her trembling hand. His voice rises. Did she truly believe his father taught them swordsmanship for something like this? Sasha glares at him. What else can he possibly expect her to do? Is he just going to stand by and watch her sister be forced into marriage with that man? He tells her to calm down. Calm down! But Sasha can't. Her voice trembles with both anger and despair as she explains that his parents are doing everything they can to stop this marriage too. She expected as much. No matter how much influence Grace's suitor holds in the political world, the age difference alone makes the union unbearable. The man in question, Duke Herman, is 80 years old. Her sister's intended husband is none other than the old Duke himself, a figure powerful enough to force a marriage upon their family, the household of the Brabant Count. He is a man who holds immense political power, and even more dauntingly, the Emperor's own father-in-law. Honestly, Sasha wouldn't care who her sister married, if only Grace could be happy. But it cannot be him. Anyone but that old man. The very thought makes her stomach twist with unease. Yet, as much as she wishes otherwise, she hasn't even spoken to Grace about it yet, and that silence tells her everything. It seems her sister has already made up her mind. Sasha can feel it. Grace is determined, and once she decides on something, she never looks back. John, clearly troubled, hesitates before asking if he should go talk to Grace himself, to tell her this marriage is a terrible idea. But Sasha shakes her head with a weary sigh, admitting that her sister never changes her mind once it's set. John knows that too. They both do. Yet the name that follows leaves a spark of possibility in the air. Ethan. Ethan had always been soft when it came to Grace. Sasha's mind races as an idea suddenly takes root, wild but full of desperate hope. They need to convince Ethan. He's the only one who might actually be able to stop her, the only one who could reach her heart when logic and family cannot. But then reality hits her. To meet Ethan, she would have to go to the Black Dragon Knights, the elite order serving directly under the Grand Duke himself. A few years ago, Ethan had joined them under Grand Duke Ludovica's command, seeking to earn a title through valor. Now that Sasha thinks about it, she remembers that the Grand Duke had once been John's father's student. A connection like that could open the gates that would otherwise remain sealed. If she uses that relationship wisely, maybe, just maybe, she can gain access to the Grand Duke's estate. She turns to John, determination burning in her eyes, and asks if he has any business with the Black Dragon Knights. To her surprise, he nods, saying that he's actually supposed to meet the Grand Duke next week. The words ignite her resolve instantly. Perfect. She tells him to take her with him. They can't afford to waste another moment. This is their only chance. Their final plan. Ethan must be the one to personally convince Grace. This time, Sasha swears she will change her sister's future. In her desperate determination to save her sister, that she completely forgets one crucial detail. She is headed straight for the Black Dragon Knights. And among them awaits the infamous Grand Duke Ludovica, the strongest man in the world, and the one they call the Mad Duke. Sasha presents her plan to John with fiery determination. First, she explains, she will accompany him to the Grand Duke's residence, posing as his escort knight. Then, while John engages in formal conversation with the Grand Duke, she will quietly slip away to the knight's quarters and find Ethan. Once she meets him, she will beg him to persuade her sister, Grace, to reconsider this disastrous marriage. If everything goes well and Grace changes her mind, perhaps even rekindling her feelings for Ethan, then the mission will be a success. All of this, Sasha insists, is for her sister's happiness. When she turns to John, her eyes glimmer with excitement as she asks if this isn't a perfect plan. But before he can answer, a deep, irritated voice rises from behind her, her master's. He remarks, with biting sarcasm, that yes, it truly is the perfect sneaking plan. Her heart nearly leaps out of her chest as she turns to see him standing there, arms crossed and eyes blazing with fury. After enduring a lengthy scolding, Sasha trudges home, cheeks burning with humiliation. John, that sneaky traitor, had gone and called her master instead of helping with the plan. Her master's voice still echoes in her head, how he had shouted at her, demanding to know if she had completely lost her senses. Was she really planning to sneak into the Grand Duke's residence just to meet Ethan? Did she think the Grand Duke's estate was some sort of playground? He ordered her to stop doing reckless things and behave herself for once. John, attempting to ease the situation, had said he would meet Ethan next week anyway, so she should simply wait. But Sasha isn't convinced. Leaving such an important task in Johan's hands feels impossible. He's far too unreliable. As she returns home, her mind full of frustrated thoughts, she notices something strange. A carriage she's never seen before is parked outside the manor. Usually, visitors only come during daylight hours. Who would arrive at such a late hour? She hides herself quietly by the hallway. Peeking, there, she sees Duke Herman, the very man her sister is supposed to marry, standing beside Grace. He questions her, when would be a good time to announce the engagement? Grace answers softly that she will follow whatever he commands. But the Duke merely chuckles, saying that since it is their engagement, he cannot decide everything on his own. If she has a preferred time, she should say so. Grace hesitates, then replies that if the Duke permits it, she thinks it would be best to announce it after the fall harvest. The old Duke smirks knowingly. Is it because of Miss Sasha's coming-of-age ceremony, he asks, his tone teasing. Grace lowers her gaze and admits quietly, yes, but it doesn't have to be exactly at that time. He laughs again, pretending to be amused. He points her sister is practically part of his family now. He promised to take care of her as if she were his own. He is not the kind of man who would ruin such a day for a young lady. Then, with false warmth, he tells her not to worry and to continue with the engagement preparation. He will handle the rest. When he finally leaves, Grace's composure shatters. She collapses to her knees, trembling. The butler rushes to her side, alarmed, but she lifts a hand weakly and whispers, "It's fine." More importantly, keep the engagement a secret from Sasha. She plans to tell her herself when the time is right. Sasha watches from the shadows, her chest tightening. Even in this unbearable moment, Grace is worrying about her, protecting her from the truth. Tears prick Sasha's eyes as she thinks, as long as sister can be happy, I'll be okay with anything. But then the realization hits her like a cold wind. They're planning to announce the engagement right after her own coming-of-age ceremony. The moment she dreaded most is drawing near. She gets up, brushing off the dust and the frustration on her face. It's fine, she tells herself. It's not like she's actually engaged yet. The timing to execute her plan has just been moved up a little, that's all. With renewed determination, she straightens her back. Yeah, let's focus on the main goal, meeting Ethan first. She grins, thinking she's an absolute genius and that she can totally pull this off. But poor Sasha doesn't realize how much trouble she's actually in. The knights keep apologizing to her, yet they remind her that the Marquis has repeatedly ordered them not to let her head toward the Grand Duke's residence under any circumstances. Her shoulders droop instantly, just like a deflated balloon. She can't believe it. She went through all this trouble, and now she's trapped in John's house? She sighs dramatically, muttering to herself that she feels like a Matsutake mushroom, delicate and helpless. The knights try to console her, assuring that the Marquis will be here shortly, and asking her to please wait a moment. Sasha, however, is having none of it. No wonder people have been following me around, she thinks in disbelief. To think they even made wanted posters of me. But then, her spirit flares up again. Master! Even so, this Sasha won't give up. The Grand Duke's residence is a week's journey away by carriage, but she decides that's not a problem. She will just walk there. Who needs a carriage anyway? And so, taking advantage of the moment when the Marquise Knights are distracted, she makes her daring escape. She dashes out, slipping past the watchful eyes of her pursuers and heading straight for the Grand Duke's territory, while avoiding every patrol on her trail. You might be wondering, how on earth did she manage to pull that off when there were wanted posters of her everywhere? Well, that's because her disguise game is on point. A magical wig to hide her long hair, a fake mustache to alter her look, every detail nailed to perfection. Thanks to that, she survives the long week of travel. Once she enters the Grand Duchy, she knows they won't be able to track her anymore. Her plan is simple. The Black Dragon Knights are infamous for their lengthy visitor screening process, so she originally planned to use Johan's connections to get in. But since that's no longer an option, she has only one choice left: apply for a visit herself and hope the screening goes by quickly. Yet when she finally reaches the Grand Duke's residence, she's taken aback. She never expected there to be so many people crowding outside. She stares at the long line spiraling down the street. How am she supposed to get through this crowd? She wonders. Judging from the strict guards at the gate, it's clear they're restricting access for outsiders. Then she notices, these people don't even look like nobles with invitations. What's this line even for? Suddenly, a loud voice rings out, instructing everyone to line up properly. Only those who pass the inspection will be allowed inside the Grand Duke's residence, and after today, they won't be admitting any more people. Sasha's eyes sparkle. So, if she passed the inspection, she can get into the Grand Duke's residence? She doesn't know what kind of screening this is, but whatever. Since this is her last resort, she might as well go for it. She rushes to join the line, clutching the number she receives, No 87. Unbeknownst to her, she's actually standing in the Black Dragon Knights enlistment screening queue. Still, she's feeling pretty optimistic. Maybe she will get in today. One by one, people are getting disqualified. Another one out, then another. The man ahead of her starts complaining, saying it's ridiculous that they're disqualifying people just by looking at their palms. Sasha listens closely, intrigued. Wait, they're inspecting palms too? For an entry screening? That's way too strict. Someone asks why the last guy was disqualified. Another answers that it had something to do with his mustache, that he had a poison blade hidden inside it, or something equally absurd. Sasha freezes for a second, then immediately peels off her own fake mustache. Nope, not risking it. Can't afford to mess this up. The crowd starts murmuring again. The atmosphere gets tense as they wait for the inspector. People whisper impatiently, wondering what kind of big shot is keeping everyone waiting outside in the street like this. Then Sasha sees him, and her breath catches. That guy, he's the inspector. Black hair, eyes as red and vivid as blood. He's ridiculously handsome, but there's something seriously off about his aura. It's chilling, intense, like he could kill you with a single look. And judging by how everyone suddenly goes quiet, maybe he really could. Finally, it's Sasha's turn. She steps forward, mentally hyping herself up. All right, new strategy. Emphasize harmlessness. Be cute, be calm, be safe. They can't possibly find an excuse to pick on her if I act innocent. She straightens her disguise and puts on her best angelic expression. She's just an ordinary person here to visit Ethan, after all. Nothing suspicious about that. The inspector looks at her, his crimson gaze unflinching. He tells her to lift her head, and Sasha flashes her killer smile, the one she's been saving for the perfect moment. But before she can even finish the expression, he hits her with a cold, emotionless word: disqualified. Sasha stands frozen. No way. Did she really just get disqualified that fast? She asks him why he is disqualifying her before even conducting an inspection. She insists that she is completely harmless, even pointing out that she has removed her mustache, and demands to know why he refuses to conduct an inspection. He replies that her smile is off-putting. She fusses around in frustration, questioning what kind of reasoning that is, and pleads for him to conduct the unfair test fairly. He coldly responds that a test is not needed because she is already disqualified. He orders Romeo to get rid of that one and bring the next candidate. She, however, declares that if this is how they intend to handle things, then she will not leave until they check her palm. Lying dramatically on the ground, she throws a tantrum, shouting that she is not going anywhere until they do as she says. The Duke observes her behavior with growing irritation. Usually by this point people would back off on their own. The fact that she is causing such a commotion just to enter the Grand Duke's residence strikes him as suspicious. He reaches for his sword, ready to deal with the disturbance himself, but Romeo quickly steps forward and stops him, reminding him that today is the day guests from friendly families are arriving. Romeo reasons that it would be better to simply give her what she wants. If they disqualify her after an inspection, she will have no grounds to protest. The Duke pauses, then agrees that Romeo does have a point. He tells the girl to show her palm. She grins and begins to lift her hand, her expression so full of excitement that the Duke glares sharply, warning her that if she truly wants to die, she should continue acting this way. Sasha only chuckles, declaring that she is just so happy that he has finally agreed to conduct the inspection. The Duke's eyes widen as he examines her palm. The moment he sees it, his composure shifts. The hand before him is the hand of someone trained in swordsmanship. The shape and hardness of the calluses reveal that she is not an ordinary person. He remarks that she has passed. She blinks in surprise and asks if he truly means it. The Duke scoffs, asking if she would prefer to be disqualified instead. Overjoyed, Sasha celebrates her success and even thanks her little fingers for looking the way they do. Romeo, however, frowns and questions the Duke about why he would let such a suspicious person pass the test. The Duke replies that it is precisely because she clearly possesses considerable skill. Romeo argues that this makes her even more suspicious. The Duke then explains that she was probably sent here because of his reputation, and he thought it would not be a bad idea to gauge what type of person she is this time. For a long while now, he has been subjected to constant assassination attempts due to his claim to the imperial throne. The method used most often has been seduction. In the process of dealing with those attempts, he had every household staff member and knight in the mansion replaced with men. He also spread a particular rumor to deter further schemes. He looks at the previously seductive girl and tells her that she must not have heard the news yet. He instructs her to pass the message along to those who sent her. Grand Duke Ludovica V is said to be a homosexual. But since women no longer work in his residence, it is now filled entirely with men. They have sent her, and she is excited to see how this goes. The record keeper asks if her name is Sasha and whether she has no last name. She confirms that she does not, and he remarks that regardless, he will call her 87. She becomes worried because even if she manages to enter the Grand Duke's residence, she still will not have a way to approach Ethan. She considers herself lucky, however, since the line in front of the Grand Duke's residence turns out to be for those entering the Grand Duke's office, where the knights reside. It is fortunate that passing this test will allow her to meet Ethan. Still, she wonders why the entry process has to be so strict. She asks if she can join the Knight Order now, but the man looks at her in confusion and tells her that she has not yet completed the second test. He orders her to wait there until her number is called. She grows irritated, wondering how many tests there could possibly be just to gain an audience. Someone nearby asks if she has already passed the first test, and the man answers that while she looks young, she is quite something. His name is Veron. She greets him cheerfully, saying that her number is 87. Veron asks if she is prepared for the second test, and she replies that she is not, quietly wondering whether the second test requires separate preparation. Veron informs her that there will be around 20 participants in each group, and that it is said to be a fight to survive, so she should hurry and get ready. Sasha can hardly believe what she hears. They are actually making visitors fight to the death just to get an audience? No matter how strict the security may be, this seems far too extreme. She demands to know why they are going this far. Veron explains that it should be obvious. It is a test befitting the reputation of the Black Dragon Knight Order. Getting into one of the 3 major Knight Orders of the Empire is no easy task. She reluctantly admits that Veron has a point. This Knight Order serves none other than Grand Duke Ludovica. The owner of the Black Dragon Knight Order, Ralph Astrid Ludovica, is the nephew of the current emperor, a war hero who has defended the empire from invasions by neighboring countries, and a favored servant personally granted his title and estate by the emperor. Because of this, the Grand Duke holds immense influence, not only within the military, but also in border security. It is only natural, then, that there would be numerous formalities. Such strictness, she realizes, is to be expected, so she resolves not to complain. After all, she is doing this for her sister. Since things have come to this point, she decides to win with all her strength. The other participants plan to take her out first, but she has already made up her mind to be the first to enter the audience room, and to listen carefully for any word of her Ethan inside the dukedom. Meanwhile, within the Grand Duke's mansion, someone apologizes for the commotion in the training hall as they welcome their guests. John remarks that it is fine, and that to think he could take the entrance exam for the famous Black Dragon Knight Order is, in itself, an honor. But soon, he begins to shout in shock. The others ask what is wrong, and though he insists it is nothing, panic spreads across his face. He cannot believe what he is seeing. Sasha is here. The Duke notices John's reaction and immediately recognizes Sasha as the girl from the entrance exam. He turns to John and asks if he knows her. John replies that he learned swordsmanship under her father's guidance alongside her when they were children, but he has not seen her since and does not know her well anymore. Ralph, the Grand Duke, muses aloud that she must be someone who received training from his own master. He finds this quite intriguing. Looking at Sasha the fool with the dumbfounded expression, he wonders who could have sent that spy. The second test ends faster than Sasha expects. In fact, it's said to be the shortest completion time in the entire history of the Knight Order. Only 3 individuals make it through, each one standing out in their own way. The first introduces himself as a mercenary named Varan, exuding that confident, battle-worn energy that screams experience. The second, Klaus, shocks everyone with his insanely unique swordsmanship, a mix of elegance and chaos that leaves the spectators speechless. And the third, well, that's Sasha. She honestly doesn't expect there to be a third test, though. At this rate, she wonders in frustration when she'll ever get the chance to actually meet Ethan. Her thoughts are already spiraling when something shiny catches her eye, a faint, persistent flash that's been glinting from the crowd since earlier. She squints. Isn't that the Albrecht family's brooch? Her suspicion is right. It's John holding it. John's expression says it all. He scolds her, clearly exasperated, like she's just pulled the boldest stunt of the century. From his tone alone, it's obvious he thinks she's lost her mind. He demands to know if she thinks this is some random place she can just stroll into whenever she feels like it. What if she gets caught? Sasha gets it. She really does understand his concern, but as long as he keeps his mouth shut, no one will ever know. She gives him that look, the kind that says, trust me, because even he's here in disguise anyway. John sighs, defeated but still worried. Of course he won't say anything, but that wig she's wearing, yeah, that's his biggest problem. It looks way too risky. Sasha waves off his concern with a smirk and assures him that it's a magical wig, one that won't come off no matter what happens. Everything's going to be fine. At least, that's what she tells herself. He can't help but sigh again. He's told her 100 times to stay still, to stop charging into trouble. Yet here she is, doing the complete opposite, again. Sasha gets flustered, pouting that he's been nagging her nonstop since earlier. Honestly, it's starting to sound like a habit, but she snaps back at him anyway, asking if he has a plan that's any better than this visitation plan she's putting together. He admits that, sure, joining the Knight Order might be the most reliable route, but what if the Grand Duke finds out her true identity? It won't just end with her being kicked out. It could be way worse. Sasha knows exactly what he means, but she also knows there's nothing more important to her right now than her sister. Nothing. John looks away, clearly conflicted, but she pushes him, insisting that if he knows anything that could help, he'd better spill it now. Reluctantly, he does. He tells her that assassination attempts against the Grand Duke have been increasing lately. It's gotten so bad that it's nearly impossible to meet even the regular knights, let alone get close to the Grand Duke himself. He admits he was also denied a meeting not long ago. If what John says is true, then it all makes sense. The overly strict procedures, the intense inspections, the ridiculous difficulty of every single test. It explains why the whole Knight Order feels like it's operating under lockdown. Still, Sasha can't help but wonder, did she really have to go through such brutal back-to-back tests, all the way to the 3rd round, just to prove herself? John's voice cuts through her thoughts as he asks how exactly she plans to leave the Knight Order once she's joined it. Because getting in might be one thing, but getting out? That's another nightmare entirely. Before she can respond, an announcement echoes through the courtyard. All those who pass the 2nd round, please gather in the training grounds. Her pulse quickens. She turns to John, saying she'll have to go now, and that he better keep her identity secret, no matter what. John watches her leave, clearly torn between worry and resignation. He knows she probably won't have any trouble getting accepted into the Black Dragon Knights, but deep down, one question keeps haunting him. Once Sasha gets in, how is she ever going to get out without being discharged? Soon, the 3rd test begins, and the atmosphere in the training grounds turns intense. Sasha finds herself grouped with Varan and Klaus, both of whom had achieved scores almost identical to hers in the previous rounds. Together, the trio unintentionally earns a nickname among the recruits, the Outstanding Record Holders Club. Each of them stands out. Varan, with the cool confidence of a seasoned mercenary whose blade moves like instinct, and Klaus, whose wild, unpredictable swordsmanship dances on the edge of madness and precision. Sasha believes that with their skills, neither of them will have trouble clearing the next round. She hopes their luck holds, and that hers does too. When she finally appears for the test, Varen greets her with mock surprise, implying that she took long enough to make it seem like she had run away. Before she can react, another voice intrudes, sharp and sneering. The words drip with disdain, as Vigran, the second son of the Egtra family, remarks how unbelievable it is that someone like her, so young and seemingly insignificant, managed to reach this stage. His tone carries the smugness of someone who believes that noble blood alone determines worth. He makes a pointed comment about how the young lord of the Albrecht family must have made certain promises to help her reach this far, hinting that Sasha's progress isn't earned but handed to her. It becomes clear that he had seen her speaking with John earlier during the break, though fortunately he hadn't overheard their conversation. His assumptions, however, are cruel enough. With a smirk that's almost a sneer, Vigran mocks the idea of connections, suggesting that for those blessed with powerful backers, getting into the Night Order must be effortless. Sasha remains silent at first, trying to hold back the irritation rising under her skin. He continues, mentioning that the third test will supposedly be a one-on-one spar with an instructor, his tone laced with false curiosity. The insinuation that she might receive special treatment stings, as he implies that the instructors will probably go easy on the commoner knight who relies on noble favor. Varan, unable to listen any longer, cuts through his mockery, pointing out that jealousy doesn't suit a knight. His tone burns with indignation. A knight, he says, should prove their strength through their sword, not their mouth. Vigrans fires back with another jab, asking if the two of them had perhaps received money to defend her. The taunt is enough to break Sasha's restraint. Before anyone fully realizes what's happening, Sasha moves. Her body reacts faster than thought. A single sharp motion, and her foot connects with Vigran's face. She hadn't meant to act, at least not like this. But there's only so much condescension a person can take. Since the examiners seem to be taking their time preparing for the next part of the test, Sasha decides there's no harm in letting off some steam. Her posture suggests quiet challenge. If anyone still doubts her skill, they are welcome to test it. Meanwhile, in another part of the training compound, Romeo delivers updates to Ralph. The second test, he reports, has been successfully completed. Particularly in Group 1, someone had finished in record time, earning the nickname Swordmaster Weirdo. Ralph's attention sharpens immediately at that strange title, and he demands to know whether Sasha was among those who passed. Romeo begins to reply, but before he can finish his explanation, Ralph's attention is caught by movement in the distance. His eyes narrow as he sees the scene. A fallen sword, Vigran sprawled on the ground, and Sasha standing over him, her blade glinting under the light as it hovers dangerously close to his neck. Sasha, composed and unflinching, makes it unmistakably clear that she holds the upper hand. Her fighting style is fast and precise, every move flowing with grace and power. Her lighter build, once mocked as a weakness, is perfectly compensated by sheer speed and technique. Her victory is decisive, clean, and absolute. Ralph watches, murmurs that she seems to create uproar wherever she goes. No matter where she steps, trouble and spectacle seem to follow. And now, in the very heart of the testing grounds, the next stage begins, a free-for-all duel. As Sasha steadies her breathing, her gaze catches on a familiar figure among the instructors. Recognition strikes like lightning. It's the man she saw during the first test, the one whose aura alone was enough to make the air heavy. A sharp realization crosses her mind. Could he be the one overseeing this test? The man's amused scoff breaks through the noise of murmurs around them. He refers to her, the rumored lunatic, who's been making waves among the recruits. The words hit Sasha unexpectedly. The title doesn't sit right with her. To be called a lunatic, especially after all her efforts, feels insulting. He announces that the details of the third test will now be explained. The first duel, he declares, will be conducted with one specific individual. And in that moment, realization dawns. The man standing before them, the one who had once tested her without revealing his identity, isn't just any instructor. He is Ralph Ludovica, the Grand Duke himself. The fight starts, and he goes in with his first blow, telling her that her defenses aren't too bad. Sasha wonders how a human can even be capable of doing something like that, swinging such a massive sword with one hand at that insane speed. It's like she's facing a complete monster. As expected, the rumors about him being the Empire's strongest sword weren't just talk. If she even gets the slightest graze, she's done for. Even so, she can't back down now. She's come too far to give up at this point. No matter what, she has to pass this test and meet Ethan. It's the only way her sister can finally be happy. With that thought blazing in her chest, she rushes at him again. Ralph watches her closely, noting that she seems confident in her speed. But to challenge a greatsword head-on with such a light blade? She's either an idiot who's completely given up, or she's really confident in her own skills. Of course it's the latter. Sasha knows stalling for time won't work against him. If she loses stamina, she'll be at a huge disadvantage. But she's no slouch when it comes to speed. She darts forward, striking with all she's got. Romeo sees that she's actually managed to push him back, while Varen can't believe what he's witnessing. That kid is holding her own against the Duke? They all watch in disbelief, wondering if she's seriously planning to win at this rate. But then, he blocks her attack with his bare hands. She freezes in shock as he tells her she's not bad, before twisting his mana-charged grip around her wrist, forcing her to drop the sword. She cries out. The pain shoots through her arm, and it's a miracle she hasn't lost her wrist completely. Even if he's wearing gloves, how can anyone just grab a blade so recklessly? She's shaking, realizing this feels more like a knight's initiation test than an ordinary duel. Ralph observes that if she has any flaw, it's that she talks too much. Then he adds that they'll be seeing each other a lot from now on. Sasha blinks, completely thrown off. Seeing each other a lot? What's that supposed to mean? Before she can even process, Ralph instructs Romeo to keep Sasha under his command. Varen pats her shoulder, still stunned that she managed to get a passing score against Ralph. The others quickly gather around to congratulate her for being the one to pass the third round. She's dazed but hopeful, asking if that means she can finally go for the meeting now. The night's solemn class meant to prepare them for their senior officers continues, finally ending just before lunchtime. The whole thing feels less like military training and more like a survival show. Jumping through a ring of fire? Putting their heads into a crocodile's mouth? Seriously, is this a night order or a circus act? As the head instructor dismisses them, he announces that in the afternoon, they'll meet their direct superior. That's all. Sasha blinks, and only then does it hit her. Why did that not occur to her earlier? When you become the squire to a senior knight, you live and train directly under them, meaning her superior will basically control her daily life. If her superior turns out kind and lenient, maybe, just maybe, life in the military might actually get easier. Since she's already decided to endure everything until fall, she quietly prays that God will assign her to a good leader. At the Duke's office, Ralph greets the new recruits. Oh, so they meet again, he says, and Sasha freezes. There's no way something like this could actually happen to her. Her superior turns out to be Ralph himself. She forces a polite smile, saying she's honored to see him again too, though deep inside she's screaming, why this sudden greeting? Ralph, on the other hand, casually mentions that he was thinking about how to punish her for her rudeness during the test. Then he tells her to get up and come closer. Sasha immediately protests, reminding him she already explained that the whole thing was a misunderstanding. Surely he's not still holding on to that? But one sharp glare from him is enough to make her instantly say, okay, he's coming. She gulps, thinking he's actually going to hit her this time. If she gets hit by that arm of his, something might actually break for real. Ralph's voice snaps her back to attention. Apparently, she's been standing there spacing out. He asks if she can even hear him. She nods quickly. He then says he heard she's a commoner without a surname. Is that true? Sasha admits it is. He follows up, asking if she's 17, and she confirms she's turning into an adult soon. Then comes the dangerous question. How does she know John? They seem close. Panic flickers across her face. If Ralph saw her talking to him, that could be bad. She rushes to assure him that they're not close at all. She only saw John from afar while training under the Marquis. After all, how could a commoner like her ever be friends with a noble? Ralph looks like he accepts her words, at least partially. He says he's glad if what she's saying is true, but something about her still feels off. For a commoner, her complexion looks surprisingly good. He narrows his eyes and asks again, who is she really? Sasha's heartbeat quickens. Is he starting to suspect something? She mentally screams at herself not to panic. He's never seen her before, so as long as she acts shamelessly, he won't find out anything. She then wonders, is my complexion really that good? To the point he has to lean closer to look? But before she can overthink it, Ralph pulls back sharply, scolding her for her disgusting comments. She exhales in relief crisis, successfully averted. She actually managed to change the subject. Thinking she's passed this round safely, her eyes dart toward his desk, where a document catches her attention. An investigation request for the Western ancient ruins? And could this be the ruins from the original story? Across the continent, several ancient ruins are believed to date back to before the royal dynasty era. each sealed by mysterious, ancient magic. The magic protecting their entrances automatically summons ancient monsters whenever intruders are detected, and since the dawn of the royal dynasty, no one has ever managed to break those seals. The ruins have always been a hot topic across the continent. Every scholar, mage, and knight curious about who would eventually break the spell first. Among all of them, the largest, the Western Ancient Ruins, stands out as a legend. In the original timeline, the Emperor himself forcibly opened it in the later part of the story to show off his authority and magical prowess, but even he failed to break the seal. When the magic circle detected intruders, hordes of monsters flooded out, attacking civilians across nearby regions. The mission to subdue those monsters and destroy the magic circle was eventually assigned to the Black Dragon Knights. That was the mission where Ethan volunteered and lost his life, but that event was supposed to happen after her sister's wedding. So, why is this investigation happening already? This wasn't part of the original timeline. Could something have changed? Could this be a problem? Ralph catches her staring at the document and narrows his eyes, clearly noticing her interest. But what would a commoner knight even know about this kind of classified mission? He casually asks if she's interested in the Western ruins. Sasha quickly shakes her head and says it's just her first time seeing something like a Night Order mission document. Totally normal curiosity. Ralph, however, doesn't seem convinced. Instead, he lifts her chin and smirks, saying he thinks having her around could make things rather amusing. He's genuinely excited to see how things play out. Sasha's brain freezes. Why is he suddenly this close? Her cheeks heat up instantly. Before the situation gets any more awkward, a man enters, clearing his throat loudly, effectively slicing through the tension in the air. He politely says he hopes Ralph doesn't mind, but he needs a moment of his time. Ralph's mood flips. "What's this?" he demands. He didn't even ask for permission to enter. The man bows quickly, apologizing for the intrusion, but insisting that he has to deliver a letter from His Majesty. He even adds, rather awkwardly, that he's sorry for interrupting during such a heated moment. Sasha, seizing the opportunity, immediately announces that in that case, she'll be leaving since Ralph clearly has work to do. But Ralph shuts that down instantly. He says there's no need for her to go, and before she can even process it, he grabs her and pulls her into his lap, saying she should listen to the letter together. Sasha flails in protest, telling him to let her go, but Ralph simply orders her to stay still, reminding her that this is a direct order from her superior. She's left speechless. Why is he like this? Was he always like this in the original story too? The man, clearly uncomfortable, tries again, saying he needs to discuss an important matter, so could the young lady please step outside for a moment? Ralph cuts him off, saying flatly that it's not possible. The man looks baffled, completely thrown off, while Ralph smirks and adds that he's rather fond of her and can't focus when she's not around. The man hesitates but finally extends the letter from the king. Ralph accepts it, assuring him that the girl won't understand their conversation anyway, so he can speak freely. Sasha, on the other hand, tells herself that this is so not the time to be picky. Whatever the Grand Duke's intentions are, she'll just have to play along and roll with it. She puts on a perfect act, turning toward the butler with innocent eyes and saying not to worry, because in her eyes, there's no one but the Grand Duke here. She's already made up her mind. She'll play the perfect role, whatever it takes. For now, she just has to endure this strange, chaotic situation until Ethan arrives safely. It's her first real chance to carry out an order as the Grand Duke's servant. She doesn't know what the Grand Duke is thinking, but she's determined to execute her role perfectly and gain his trust. The tension in the room is sharp when the Duke asks about the contents of the letter personally sent by the Emperor. The man shows it to him, and it seems the rumors are true after all. The Grand Duke really is into men. The man adds that the Emperor ordered this content to be executed immediately upon confirmation. Ralph mutters that the Emperor is making a bold move, while Sasha notices that the Grand Duke's entire demeanor turns razor sharp. Ralph calmly tells the man not to worry, promising that the order will be executed without a hitch. After all, he is the Emperor's loyal servant. Sasha can't help but wonder what exactly is written in that letter for him to react this way. The order commands them to depart from the Western Territory immediately. She stares at the paper, baffled. No greeting, no formalities. That's the entire content. This doesn't seem like a letter sent to a cherished nephew. This feels more like an attempt to get rid of someone who's fallen out of favor. The man adds that the Emperor also sent something else to honor the Grand Duke's achievements in advance. Then he takes out a recording magic device. The voice of the Emperor echoes through it, addressed to his dear nephew Raphael. He says it hasn't been long since the suppression ended, and though it must be hard, no one seems more suitable for the task than the Empire's hero. He expects great results from the investigation of the ruins. Sasha senses something deeply off. For a letter sent using such a precious magical tool, the tone feels strangely detached. Publicly, it's known that the Emperor, despite losing his parents early, cherished and was proud of his nephew, who grew up splendidly. Whenever the nephew returned victorious from war, the Emperor would praise him grandly in the central square of the capital, making the entire empire feel his affection. But now, that same Emperor is sending his nephew back to the West, and not even a proper greeting this time? The Grand Duke just returned to his domain after years of brutal suppression campaigns, and yet this letter and the video message carry a coercive, almost icy tone. It feels as if the Emperor is pushing his nephew back into danger with relentless orders. Sasha's eyes narrow slightly as she pieces the feeling together. Could it be that the Emperor isn't doting on the Grand Duke after all, but instead testing him? The thought hits her like a cold wind. Something about this whole thing screams setup. If the Grand Duke refuses the order, his loyalty might be questioned, and if he accepts, he loses any excuse to avoid the expedition. Either choice puts him at a total disadvantage, just like her sister. The man then says that he will inform the Emperor that the Grand Duke has departed for the West, confident that His Majesty will be pleased. Sasha suddenly gets up, her mind snapping back to something. The mention of the palace reminds her of something important. She blurts it out without thinking, but she can't ignore it since it ties back to her sister. The Western expedition interferes with her own plans too. She tries to redirect the topic, mentioning that with the Emperor's birthday coming up soon, just like Ralph told her, they'll need to handle a lot of preparations. She throws him a playful wink, trying to send a signal, like, "Come on, Tilda, you forgot, didn't you?" Then she adds, "And what about my birthday in a few days? Surely you haven't forgotten that either?" Internally, she's practically begging him to just play along. Ralph smoothly replies that he couldn't possibly forget her birthday. Even though he says that, he knows the Emperor likely doesn't intend to send the Grand Duke west immediately. If he forces his nephew, who just returned, on another expedition, people will start gossiping, and the Emperor's image as an affectionate family man will crumble. But the tone of the message suggests he's testing the Grand Duke's obedience rather than simply commanding him. So the best strategy right now is to divert the Emperor's attention elsewhere, to buy time until the Grand Duke decides whether to go or not. Especially now that rumors are circulating that the Grand Duke has fallen for a man. If word spreads that he can't even leave because he's too infatuated with his servant, the Emperor's suspicions might ease, and his interest in the expedition could fade. And considering that the Grand Duke is supposedly preparing a birthday gift for the Emperor, that might help their case even more. Finally, Ralph tells the man that he will answer the matter of the expedition later, and that he can explain his decision to His Majesty. Then, with that cool composure of his, he adds that, as the man can see, he's a little busy. And before Sasha can process what's happening, Ralph suddenly kisses her. Her brain short-circuits for a second. Wait, what the hell? Why would he kiss me out of nowhere? The man, completely unfazed, simply says he will inform His Majesty of Ralph's message. To think Ralph didn't even blink while pretending he's too good at this. He must be used to this kind of act. Sasha, however, is still reeling from shock. She silently panics, wondering if there are other settings in this story she doesn't know about. Like, maybe the relationship in the original version wasn't that good. She barely managed to survive this scene, but next time, who knows? Ralph then turns to her, his gaze sharp but amused, and says her acting was actually really good. He admits he's been suspicious from the start. She claims to be a commoner, yet her speech carries the accent of nobility, and her swordsmanship reveals the habits of a trained aristocrat. He steps closer and says he'll ask one more time, who is she really? Sasha thought she'd fooled him, but apparently, he still doesn't trust her. The next moment, he draws his sword and holds it to her neck, warning her not to think too hard about lying. She can tell, if she says the wrong thing, she could die right here. So she finally blurts out the truth. She entered because she has someone she wants to protect. Ralph scoffs, his tone full of disbelief. What is she even talking about? Since he already suspects her, a half-hearted excuse won't work. Sasha straightens her back and insists that she can't tell him who it is, but there's someone as precious to her as her own life, and to protect them, she must stay in the Black Dragon Knights. She swears that she isn't his enemy, and pleads with him to just trust her this once. Ralph's expression doesn't soften. He asks if that ridiculous act she performed earlier, right in front of the officials, was just to win his favor. Sasha quickly denies it, saying that wasn't her intention. But he snorts, asking then what it was. She admits that he looked so tired so she just acted without thinking. Ralph sneers at that, his voice dripping with mockery. To think the Empire's hero would be pitied by someone whose identity is still unclear. He must have really fallen far. Sasha quickly insists it wasn't pity, but concern. In any case, Ralph makes it clear that he didn't need her help and warns her to stay out of it next time. He'll handle it himself, but the tone he uses, it's so familiar. It's the same way her sister used to sound. Sasha's heart tightens. Why does he keep reminding her of her sister? It's seriously bothering her. She takes a bold step toward him, her voice trembling but strong. She demands, "Is the Empire's hero not human? Isn't he also just an ordinary person who can rely on others for help?" She shouts at him, her frustration spilling out. Can he even understand that?